Everyone like you rightly leave, but considering the situation at hand, we have not seen Godwin Emefiele come out to officially announce that he's vying for the position of the presidency.
That is a fact.
Okay, so as long as we have not been able to see that, chances are, or persons might argue that maybe he's not just a country. One would expect that before now that Godwin Emefiele would have come out to tell Nigerians he is vying for the post of the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I mean, that would, to a large extent, give credence to the different support system or the different support group rising up to, chart a course for him to be the consensus candidate. But at this point in time, for me, as long as he's yet to announce officially his intentions to the Nigerian people and, of course, to the political party, I think making him the consensus candidate will be a step in the very wrong direction.
You know, the way the workings of politics is, especially with regards to 2021 build up to 2023 general elections. We saw that coming right from when there were rumors that the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is going to contest. It was the same thing. There were rumors, flyers, flags, posters. All the publicity was on ground before the Grand Master finally actually declared publicly. This is one of those many cases that would happen. And now it's same issue with Governor Amechi of Rivers State, former governor of Rivers State. Posters, flyers, flags, groups clamoring for him to come out and contest. And then after you see that, yes, they actually would declare their intentions. So I think it's a strategy for them. It's a kind of, I don't know, it's a strategy that gives the impression that, yes, it's not that they really want this position, you know, out of my importance, out of the things they have done, out of my capacity and antecedents, like they would always say, Nigerians, actually, they are clamoring for me to get there. And who knows, they might just buy in forms, because this year, I think quite a number of persons are getting free forms to contest.
Well, a lot of persons might be getting free forms, but that's not a prerequisite to guarantee that they're going to win at the end of the day. And tracing it, putting side by side his issue and that of Governor Udom Emmanuel, who also had himself the form being purchased for him, and then went ahead to take the decision to accept the form and then began, consultation. It's one thing for some factions or some group of Nigerian people to say, you are credible enough, you are fit for the job, we find you capable, and we know that given the opportunity, you will be able to deliver Nigeria from all of its problems or most of the problems that we are currently facing. It's another thing for you as an individual to take that charge and take responsibility and say, okay, some Nigerians have found me worthy of this position, and so I am going to take the responsibility to do the needful to make Nigerians know that, okay, it is one thing for you to have found me worthy. I also find myself worthy, and so I am putting myself up. You've come to me.
That's one angle to it.
At this point in time, it is very important that, I mean, the youth group who came out to say they were responsible for the campaign, saying it has been more than 2 weeks and nobody has heard any statement from Godwin Emefiele or his camp. So at this point, I think it's jumping the structure to tell Nigerians or tell any political party to pick him as a consensus candidate, because he first has to announce.
Negotiations are ongoing at the background. You would agree that these people, they don't just wake up to make declarations. They don't just wake up to declare interest publicly. They are doing private consultations behind the scene. They are meeting individuals. They are, weighing their chances. They are looking at possible risk factors and possibilities of actually going forward. At any time, it could be that after the long clamor, after all the flags and posters, they might not actually come up openly to declare their intentions. If after they've weighed all their options and they see that it will work for them, and if after they've weighed their options, possibly they are sure of, perhaps even if they don't grab the ticket, they can still get settled for one thing or the other. Negotiations are really ongoing. So at the time they are conclude or they're through with their negotiation, you now see them come up to declare. It's a possibility.
Well, I stand corrected, but I'm yet to see a public office holder or a politician who reportedly surfaced online or the internet without their consent, who hasn't actually gone ahead to vie for that position. And so this might not just be another, might not be a variation from that. It's just going to be the same thing. So if the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria is going to contest for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it's about time he comes out to say, this is my stand. And then we can get to talk about other issues. Aside from that, personally, I don't think it's the right time to call for a consensus candidate.
Well, it's not the right time, so we have to move ahead. The Deputy Senate President, Oviomor Gege, has declared his intentions to contest for the governorship seat of Delta State come 2023 general elections. Omor Gege, the senator representing Delta Central Senatorial District in the National Assembly, made his intentions known to a mammoth crowd of the All Progressives Congress leaders, members, supporters on Thursday at the arena of the Federal University of Petroleum Resources. He accused Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of marginalizing the people of Nduka, Isoko, and Ijo Nation. Addressing the mammoth crowd of the All Progressives Congress leaders, members, supporters, and stakeholders, Omor Gege revealed that out of the stewardship, saying that he had decided to step out of his comfort zone to contest for the 2023 gubernatorial election so as to extend his good works to the state. The Deputy Senate President, who accused the governor of administration of spending over 2 billion naira on a monthly basis on aides who did nothing, described Okowa's government as a big waste and a fraud. Well, we see these statements, and well, let's listen to him at this point.
Decided to step out of my comfort zone and move to bring the same benefit to the whole of Delta State. These opportunities I have brought to Delta Central. I want an opportunity to also bring the same opportunity to the people of Delta North and to the people of Delta South. Because what is good for the goose, good for the gander.
You can see the crowd there. I know there are always mammoth crowds everywhere. Whenever you see these politicians come up to contest or to aspire or even go for a public function or an oversight function of even commissioning the last thing as a borehole, you see mammoth crowds. And when we talk about mammoth, you hear mammoth crowds, you hear sea of heads. And a lot of times the Nigerians will say it's due to the unemployment ratio in Nigeria. Perhaps if they were employed, they won't be going out to make the mammoth crowd. But then, to a large extent, it's a determining factor as to how appreciative the people are for his aspirations.
Well, as far as political campaigns are concerned, but then looking at the personality of Ovi and coming out to declare his intention to run for the office of the governorship position, I think it's something that is commendable. And looking at his pedigree politically, and then his history as a lawyer and a strong personality in the state, I think he stands on good grounds and might be able to win peradventure, but if not, that's just the politics of chance. However, I don't feel okay that just coming out for politics like a lot of persons, and then you make your own mistakes. So well, if you're going to play politics, play a natural politics. Put yourself out.
My concern is with his purpose or the essence of him aspiring to be the governor. He said it's for the reason of marginalizing the Jaw, the Soko. And I mean, you held the number 4 position, a Deputy Senate President. That's the number 4. Your authority, your good office, the oversight functions, to demarginalize these people. What difference would it make when you become the governor? Now, you were there specifically for these people from your senatorial district, which is claimed they were marginalized. At least you had a whole lot to have done to ensure that they were not marginalized. I think the development of a state is not solely dependent on the executive governor. We have the chairman, we have the House of Assembly members, we have the senators, we have the House of Rep members who are streamlined even up to the local government level, the councillors, the chairman, and all of them. So why would you say people were marginalized? Yet we have people representing this same set of persons at the Green Chambers, the House of Reps. You have people representing these same persons at the Senate. You have the people at the State House of Assembly representing this same set of people. Then what do you call that?
Well,
are they also being marginalized by
maybe
by
they're
leaders?
also being marginalized. I want to tackle that coming from the angle of Minister of Transport Rotimi Amechi and his face off with the federal government during the Abuja Kanu train incident, where he came out to accuse some of his colleagues as being responsible for stalking the procurement of the surveillance equipment that was meant to have helped the government or helped the railway system forestall or prevent, such attacks. I think probably Ogege and his colleagues must have been bringing in their bit of the political or national cake to their community. But unfortunately, being the chief security officer of the state or being the #1 citizen of the state, probably one way or the other, maybe reportedly, allegedly, it could be the governor must have one way or the other stopped it. But regardless of that, I know that such situations may not be lacking in the political terrain. But I believe also, as a representative of the people, there are things that have been put in place to ensure that whatever constituency project is given to you gets to your people. So if for any reason that project does not get to your people, the #1 responsibility or the #1 fault lies with you, who has the mandate to represent the people and not the governor of the state. So
then
he's taking a wrong
step. We should be
step.
talking about evidence. Let's hear, okay, this is XYZ road that was, approved by the federal government that should have been, reconstructed at so and so XYZ village, and the governor did not allow. Let's see documents that could prove that, yes, I tried my best to ensure that development gets down to the Jaw Nation, gets down to the Isoko Nation, and these are oil producing states that have suffered setbacks despite their rich heritage. Then you're talking about marginalization. At this point, I'm concerned with who is marginalizing who.
I think we're going to keep hoping that as the story unveils, that they're going to give us facts. He's not just going to do talks as usual in the political terrain. But moving away from that, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, yesterday suspended the continuous voter registration civil exercise in Ihete Uboma local government area of Imo State. The decision was taken after the INEC personnel was shot dead by gunmen. A statement signed by INEC National Commissioner Festus Okoye, according to Okoye, the worker, Mr. Nwokore Anthony, was shot dead at Nkwo Hiati, PU 004 in Amakohia Ward 2 in Ihete Uboma local government area. 2 other members of staff involved in the registration exercise at the polling unit are also missing, and INEC has said it was making efforts to locate their whereabouts. Now, prior to this incident, the commission had suspended the CVR in Orsu and Njaba local government areas of the state on account of insecurity, while the exercise is taking place in other INEC LG offices in Oru East, Oru West, Oru and Uhaji, Ebema local government areas of the state. Well,
Francis, just yesterday we talked about INEC and the statement that was issued out by the INEC commissioner, Mahmoud Yakubu. He said that a lot of votes, about 45% of all the votes registered, are invalid. And now we heard people raise concerns as to the difficulty they experience with regards to getting themselves registered and perhaps, those that were successfully registered getting the card. And he mentioned that about 1-point-something million cards that have been registered and issued are yet to be picked up. Now, the concern is, what is the percentage of people who are going to be voting in the upcoming elections 2023? Considering that this number of persons are already being disenfranchised, if care is not taken, it will be difficult to rectify that. Now, it could be a replay of the same issue at the polling unit, where people are struggling to get themselves registered, and then maybe a little violent in act, and then this happens.
Well, the last time we talked about the issue of the INEC and their statistics released to the Nigerian people, I did say that it's very critical, it's very important that at this point INEC look at different measures to ensure that most Nigerians do not get disenfranchised. And yes, violence is definitely bound to happen when the situation has become worrisome, because a lot of Nigerians want to exercise their constitutional right come 2023. A lot of Nigerians want to do what they did not or may not have had the chance to do in the last 8 years. And then at this point, you're telling us that we're not going to be able to vote. Chances are persons who get to queue for a long time, or persons who have interest of ensuring that for no reason at all they do not get disenfranchised, will do everything humanly possible to possibly get themselves registered. And that is the aftermath, or violence will be the aftermath of such a decision. And then talking about the delays that we face in getting the PVCs, I recall back then trying to get myself registered, I had to wait for almost a week of consistently going there. And then you also have to, look into the fact that persons are working, from farmers to people in the civil service to business persons, and a lot of persons will not have time to consistently go to the polling center or the ward or the registration center to register. And when they go there, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and on several occasions they have not been able to register, chances are a lot of persons will relax. And when the persons relax, what we see are massive situations where Nigerians cannot have their PVCs and cannot vote. And then for the PVCs that have not been claimed, one of the things that INEC should do at this point should be to embark on massive awareness and let the people know that it is very important to come pick your PVC up, and then also look for a way to solve the situation. Because if we do not settle that issue, then all that we are clamoring for, the fair, equitable, and just election come 2023 is not going to happen. And when that doesn't happen, then we might likely have a very serious post-election situation.
Post-election situation is something we shouldn't be looking out for. But regardless, we hope they settle that amicably and then try to get voters' registration started again in Imo State. Well, a prestigious son of Akwa Ibom State has finally declared his intentions to join the governorship race in Akwa Ibom State come 2023 under the People's Democratic Party. Now I'm talking about Akan and Kan Udofia. Yes. Now, it was long anticipated. It's a declaration that was long expected. I mean, he was one of the first 3 names that popped up. I know we had the likes of Udomi Noyo and Akan Udofia pop up way back 2 years ago, that they were going to, throw themselves into the governorship race to, see what they can do, contribute their quarter towards the development of Akwa Ibom State. He is a businessman that has done successfully well for himself, and quite frankly, he has been working very closely with the incumbent governor of Akwa Ibom State. I'm talking about Governor Udom Emmanuel, and to a large extent, people believe that he is one of the brains behind the successes achieved in Ibom Air and all of that. I think at some point, a lot of persons were anticipating he would be the governor's preferred choice, going by their relationship.
Well, it's a reality on ground that you just have to respect the unexpected when it comes to politics. And yes, 2 years ago we began to hear the chants and the fanfare surrounding Akan Udofia when he came back to the state and made his intentions known, possibly through his body language and the body language of the governor of the state. And as at that time, I think before his emergence, we had, information circulating that Udomi Noyo, the retired ExxonMobil director, was going to be the governor's preferred candidate. And then shortly after that, he surfaced and everything changed. And then along the line, we had the Weni Bium fly that happened over the December period, and then the governor was there. And so with the close relations and the fact that practically major outings that had to do with Ibom Air, like you rightly mentioned, and other strategic business meeting, the governor was rumored to always be in the company of Akan Udofia. And so that led the people to believe that he probably might be the, the chosen one. But unfortunately...
But funny enough, he still believes he's the chosen one. He said he's the God's chosen one, regardless of whether the governor actually, approves of his intentions or is supportive of his intentions. Well, he believes he's the God's chosen and mandates for Akwa Ibom State.
Well, at this point, I wouldn't want to toe the line of anybody who calls himself God chosen. Yes, we know that government is created by God. Yes, we know that no man gets to the position of power and authority without God's interference. We understand all of that. But we are also used to the political dynamics where all of the politicians vying for one position or the other would always reportedly claim that it is God's will, that God spoke to them and God asked them to come become the leader and come lead the people. We've heard that severally. I remember even when the Governor Udomi Manjo's preferred choice, Pastor Moino, came, we all heard stories about him being God's choice and being God's anointed one to lead Akwa Ibom State going forward. So it's a general thing, it's a normal thing to hear politicians say this, but however, Akwa Ibomites will get to know who indeed is God's choice when at the end of 2023's general election or gubernatorial election, we have a man installed as the governor of Akwa Ibom State. Only then can we say this is God's choice.
Well, while we await that to actually decipher which among all the aspirants is the God's chosen choice for the people of Akwa Ibom State, who want to listen to our Canada view at the moment.
God's chosen one, the people's choice. I'm a man that God has prepared for today, 32 years in the oil and gas industry, straight from the private sector, retired at 52 to serve my people. As the STVNg government. I have found a lot of success in my 32 years in the oil and gas industry, and I want to bring that level of experience and success to bear upon governance in Akwa Ibom State. God has prepared me for today, and I guarantee each and every one of you that it's going to be a revolution, infrastructural revolution, human capital revolution, social security revolution, come 2023 in Akwa Ibom State. I'm a man that has excelled. I'm a man that God has shown mercy. I'm a man, at the end of the day, that I guarantee each and every one of you seated here is prepared for this task, is prepared for the task of governance. I'm a man for the youth, I'm a man for women. Seated right next to me is my daughter, and I insisted she be part of this because this journey is about the next generation. This journey is about the future of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Well, we agree with him.
Well, I never said I don't agree, and a lot of persons who might not agree with him, but then we're all God's children. But as long as the power and authority and the governorship position of Akwa Ibom State, and indeed any state or country is concerned, God is involved. And we can only say this is God's choice when the person must have emerged and installed or inaugurated into that office.
Absolutely.
So moving away from that, our attention has been drawn to plans by the acting National Secretary of the defunct Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Committee of the All Progressive Congress IPC, Senator James Udayedege, and the sacked chairman of the party in Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Augustine Ekanem, to publish a mock vote of no confidence on the Honorable Minister, Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio. Let it be known that Senator Udayedege and Mr. Ekanem, who have both lost out in the leadership of the Akwa Ibom State chapter of their party, have concluded plans to embarrass the leader of the party in the state and the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs with a phantom vote of no confidence. However, this is to inform members of the public, particularly the teaming supporters and members of the APC, that Senator Akpabio does not merit any vote of no confidence. The rumor that the minister masterminded the passing for vote of no confidence on Senator Udayedege by his colleagues in the defunct CECC have since been found out to not be true. Now, this is the dynamics in politics, that you don't have a permanent friend, you don't have a permanent enemy, you only have permanent interest. And even interest is not permanent because at some point interest becomes compromised, and that is where you have the variations when it comes to that. But then I think we've seen a lot of issues surrounding the APC in Akwa Ibom State, even at the national level. Remember, we had, recall when we had the publicity secretary of the APC, and he categorically stated that there was no fight, there was no internal rancor within the APC. I'm hoping that when we call upon him, he's going to come, you know, give clarity to this particular message, because this is a clear, you know, an open fight between the Senator Godswill Akpabio's camp and the John Okpano-Odoyedege's camp.
Well, quite frankly, it's intriguing how two political leaders who meet at the National Convention of the All Progressives Congress exchange pleasantries, smiles, and all of that, you know, smile to the camera, pictures taken, and they come back home and still have the same issue that they had. Despite the fact that Solomon Johnny, who happens to be the Mbato, the APC publicity secretary, who believes that that convention wasn't supposed to unite the different factions within the All Progressives Congress in Akwa Ibom State. It is interesting that there was a reconciliation committee set up for that effect, so that at the point you get to the Congress or the National Convention and come back, you have a more stable party that can function in unity to forge ahead with a single course. That is not the case with Akwa Ibom State, going by what we've seen here. Quite frankly, two persons, you know, loggerheads together. That's the Austin Akande, late chairman, ESCO of Akwa Ibom State, which was inaugurated in the defunct Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee. And we saw just a few days back when the incumbent chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Adamu, inaugurated another chairman for Akwa Ibom State, which is STVNg. And quite frankly, it is really interesting that this case is still in court, and yet, you know, to be reached on there's no verdict on that as we speak. And we heard on news the other day about maintaining status quo until the cases in courts have been resolved. But how long will the cases take to be resolved? Because they have a primaries to plan. There is an INEC timetable to meet up with, because INEC went for the All Progressives Congress in APC. I recall I asked him, are we expecting to see two flag bearers from the All Progressives Congress, you know, during the national, or are we having two different All Progressives Congress in Akwa Ibom State who have two chairmen, separate chairmen, one representing a structure for the Godswill Akpabio faction, and the other representing the party structure for Senator John James Okpano-Odoyedege. Well, interesting dynamics that bothers a lot of persons, that for a good opposition who cannot actually, you know, really put their house in order, you know, to put up a formidable force. We don't know if the APC is ready for elections, or they're still into the gimmicks of child play.
Well, I wouldn't say they're in the gimmicks of child play, because they understand how important it is for them to return to power come 2023 at the state level, at the national level, if they want to, you know, maintain the status quo using that term. But however, you know, judging from the biblical perspective, it says that when the center is the stabilized, the anchor can no longer hold. We had foreseen, a lot of us have foreseen that this is going to happen at the state level, especially with the crisis that John Odoyedege had at the national level. So you have falling out of favor at the national level. It definitely means you're not going to be in favor at the state level, because the state and the national work hand in hand. So when you lose confidence at the national level, then the state will not be able to hold you on. So this is what is playing out here. And I think at this point, the best Okpano-Odoyedege can do will be to seek peace and find a common ground where his team and the Senator Godswill Akpabio's team come to a common ground and agree in the overall interest of the party. Otherwise, maybe we might be having the child's play back and forth scenario.
Well, this will be our focus for today in the second part of this show. But before we go on break, let us quickly take a look at the ASUU strike and the burning issues that are trendy. And Nigerians have spoken their voice. They believe that something that ASUU should get back to the classrooms. A lot of students are complaining of the delay in conclusions of the academic activities, some of which which were in final year, and they believe that maybe perhaps they should have finished and rounded up and get mobilized to, get for the National Youth Service Corps, which of course has an age limit, and now we're still faced with these elephant fights, leaving the grass to suffer. Let's take a look at the video and the opinions of different persons. Well, we'll go on a short time out. When we return, we'll take the burning issue before we still have our guests come on set. Please stay with us. In every election, voters and civic education are necessary to ensure that all constituents, men and women, understand their rights, their political system, the contests they are being asked to decide upon, and how and where to vote. For an election to be successful and democratic, voters must understand their rights and responsibilities and must be sufficient knowledge and well informed to cast ballots that are legally valid and to participate meaningfully in the voting process. Voter and civic education are even more critical in post-conflict countries where political situations may be volatile and where election may have an unprecedented impact on the country's future. As Nigeria prepares for 2023 general elections, a lot of plans are on ground. First is the issue with Electoral Act Amendment Bill, and here are 10 provisions that bill offers. Clause 29. Every political party shall not later than 180 days before the date appointed for general election submit the list of candidates that the party proposes to sponsor at the election to the Commission, who must have emerged from valid primaries conducted by the political party. Clause 8. A person who, being a member of a political party, misrepresents himself by not disclosing his membership, affiliation, or connection to any political party in order to secure appointment with the Commission in any capacity commits an offense and is liable on conviction to pay a fine of 5 million naira or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or both. Clause 94. The period of public campaigns by political parties has been extended from 90 days to 150 days before polling day and ends 24 hours prior to the day. Clause 65. The bill confers INEC with the power to review declarations and returns made under questionable circumstances to keep returning officers in check and ensure full compliance with electoral guidelines. Clause 34. The new bill addresses a lacuna in the current electoral law, which was manifest in the 2015 governorship elections in Kogi State, where a candidate died before the result of the election was announced. The bill affords political parties the opportunity to conduct primary elections to replace a candidate who dies after the commencement of polls and before the announcement of final result and declaration of a winner. Clause 51. According to the bill, overvoting occurs when the number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceeds the total number of accredited voters in the polling unit. With this new provision, total number of accredited voters will become a determinant factor in the validity of votes in an election. The outdated determination has been exploited by politicians to manipulate electoral outcomes. Clause 47. The bill makes provision for electronic accreditation of voters using the smart card readers or any technological device as may be determined by INEC. Clause 54. The Commission shall take reasonable steps to ensure that persons with disabilities, special needs, and vulnerable persons are assisted at the polling place by the provisions of suitable means of communication, device or sign language, interpretation, or off-site voting in appropriate cases. Clause 3. The bill strengthens the financial independence of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) by ensuring that all funding required for a general election is released not later than 1 year before the next general elections. Clause 50. The bill confers INEC with the power to determine whether election results are transmitted electronically or manually.
However, the National Assembly has passed the harmonized version of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The harmonized version passed by the lawmakers during a plenary is the final agreed version between the Senate and House of Representatives on the amendment to Clause 84 of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which allows direct, indirect, and consensus mode of
December
primary.
2021 was when the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities (ASU) resumed the long suspended strike which lasted for 3 weeks. The strike action, which has as its baptismal name Roll Over, was continued on 14 February 2022 and it lasted for 4 weeks. According to Mr. Osadake, the strike continues over the government's failure to satisfactorily implement the Memorandum of Action it signed with the union in December 2020.
Consider the government has failed to fully implement the Memorandum of Action signed with the Academic Staff Union of University on 23 December 2030, given that the draft report of the negotiation agreement has been submitted for finalization for more than 9 weeks, more than 9 works now, and noting that the forceful payment of ASU number salary and emolument with integrated payroll and personnel management information system IPs and non-adoption of academic solution have continued to shortchange our members. NEC therefore resolved to embark beginning from Monday, 14 February 2022, which is today.
So far, the demands of ASU has remained constant and firm of the need for revitalization of public universities, renegotiation of the 2019 federal government ASU agreement, and academic allowance up to 92 billion naira, state university promotion arrears, remittance of third-party deduction, among others. The industrial action was again rolled over for 8 weeks for lack of reaching a compromise. However, while the association continues to claim that it is involved in a struggle for Nigerian tertiary education and Nigerian students by extension, some Nigerians perceive the supposed struggle marked by incessant strike action to be self-seeking. It has been a back and forth negotiation with no camp ready to succumb. The federal government, however, is in support of renegotiation of the welfare package for university workers in line with current reality. This is as the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) has decided to weather into the face-off between the 4 university-based unions and the federal government over non-payment of minimum wage arrears, the shortfalls in salary payment, renegotiation of the 2019 agreement, and revitalization funds, amongst others. Senator Ngige, at a meeting with the federal government's renegotiating committee in his office, pleaded with the committee to ensure that it concludes its assignment within 6 weeks as provided in the Memorandum of Action. He said the federal government was aware of the level of depreciation to which the lecturers' earnings has been subjected due to rise in the inflation rate, adding that he had advised the leadership of ASU to find a better way to pressurize the Federal Ministry of Education and National University Commission (NUC) to hasten action on the implementation of agreements
reaching with the government rather than rushing to strikes every time there was a disagreement. Yes, the shortfalls in salary payments, renegotiation of the 2019 agreement, and revitalization funds, amongst others. Senator Ngige, at a meeting with the federal government's renegotiation committee in his office, pleaded with the committee to ensure that it concludes its assignment within 6 weeks as provided in the Memoranda of Action. He said the federal government was aware of the level of depreciation to which the lecturers' earnings has been subjected due to rise in the inflation rate, adding that he had advised the leadership of ASU to find a better way to pressurize the Federal Ministry of Education in
Glad to have you back. Yes, the show is still Political Spectrum, reaching you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran, and we are also live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. So use the handle at STVNg, and let's connect, make comments, and of course contribute to some of the burning issues across the country. Well, Francis, strike action in Nigeria is one issue that has been at the front burner for a while now. Quite frankly, it is the desire of every Nigerian student to see that the federal government of Nigeria and ASU can come to a compromise or reach a middle ground. So perhaps federal government can, resolve some of the many concerns of this ASU. They've had it for a long time. There's really no changes with regards to the MOU that was signed in 2020, and up till date, not up to 30% of that MOU has been followed through. So they're just basically asking for a revisit to the MOU and perhaps an understanding from the end of the federal government. Regardless, Nigerian students are not much at this moment very concerned with what is happening between them. They just want to get back to school.
Well, it's approximately about 15 years since the 2009 MOU and MOA was signed between ASU and the federal government. And at this point, what ASU is actually asking for were key things that were raised within the 2009 agreement that they signed with the federal government. And so in as much as I would want for ASU to return to the school and students to return to school and for all of the issues to be rectified, I think at this point in time, I might want to toe the lines of ASU, because we've had the federal government over and over and over again coming out to sign MOUs and MOAs and not, be committed and responsible enough to honor the terms of their agreement with ASU. And so if we continue going in that line of thought, then the educational system in Nigeria will just keep decreasing and moving from bad to worse, which is a situation that none of us would want. I mean, even if you're a graduate presently, your child is definitely going to go to the Nigerian university. Or even if you send your child abroad, how many of Nigerian people will be able to do that? So I think it's necessary at this point for ASU to reconsider their stance as well, while not giving out too much that will affect the academic system. And I think it's about time the federal government also commit to doing more than just mouth saying or just mere comments or trying to point accusing fingers on ASU and other relevant bodies. And don't forget that the Nigerian Labour Congress has come out to give the federal government a 21-day ultimatum to ensure that it resolves its issues with ASU. Otherwise, further actions will be, implemented. And you can never say what those further actions would mean. Remember, this is always the line of thought. These are always the train of speech that we get from the NLC before a massive strike action. And you can imagine what will happen. I remember saying on this show that if it gets to a point where all relevant bodies collaborate in an all-round national strike, then a lot of things are going to get wrong in Nigeria.
Well, that would amount to a halt in Nigeria, but economy, all sectors in Nigeria.
Sectors.
Well, it's something that shouldn't be expected or shouldn't be looked forward to. But at this time, we can just listen to opinions from some concerned citizens as well as students of Nigerian universities.
Cyril. Well, concerning the ASU strike, I don't think they are doing any bad thing, honestly. You would agree with me that as much as students are being kept in the house, the lecturers themselves, they need this money to take care of their families. They have wives, they have children, they have different businesses they need to take care of. So if the federal government does not pay them, how do they meet up this physiological needs. It is very, very important. And then secondly, I would like to advise the student, my darlings, don't stay at home. Since we don't know when they are calling off the strike, go and learn a trade, go and learn a skill. Maybe fashion designing, could be hairdressing, could be cobbling of shoes. It could just be anything, so that you don't waste your time staying at home and waiting for the federal government. It's even a plus for you. So by the time they are done with their different disagreement and agreement, you're going back equipped, you're going back more productive. Get a little machine and so while you're getting your money, and take care of yourself in school. That's all I have to say.
Okay, my name is Isaiah Udo Jr. Concerning this ASU federal government issue, I don't really think ASU in a way is doing a very bad thing, because actually they need this agreement to be made by the federal government for, you know, the teachers, the lecturers should be able to get their salaries and every other thing. So in a way, I would say that ASU somehow should be considerate, but something should be done. They should have an agreement of a date that federal government is going to meet their need before they go back to school, or probably go back to school. And after that date, if the federal government fails to meet their need, they have to call back the strike.
Have you back? Yes, those are the opinions of some concerned individuals in Nigeria who actually, you know, it appears a lot of persons are supportive of ASU's move to ensure that there is some level of commitment from the end of government towards education and improving education in Nigeria as a whole.
Well, it is critical at this point to understand that these are students who have felt more significantly the impact of the consistent and insistent strike by ASU and the inability of the federal government to meet up with the demands of ASU. So I totally agree with them, and at this point I would still, toe the line of telling ASU to stand its grounds to ensure that if they must compromise, then they must compromise to the level that the educational system has 60 to 70% of what is desired to make the necessary change
Absolutely.
and transformations in the sector.
Absolutely. And that's it for the burning issue. At this point, we'll still have to mention a thing or two about the APC and their party struggle for party structure in Akwa Ibom State.
Well, as far as the issue between John Akpanodo-Edere and Senator Godswill Akpabio is concerned in the APC, as we read in the statement that was signed by Alhaji Abdul Rahman Bello, the national president, and of course, Comrade Basi Etem, who is the Secretary National Coalition for Strategic Impact and Unity in Akwa Ibom State. I think it's high time for these two factions to come together and then come to some compromise where the party interest supersedes the interest of their individual persons. When that is done, then the APC in Akwa Ibom State can say that they are ready for elections come 2023.
Obviously, they have successfully avoided speaking on air today, but that they have gotten away today, I'm not sure. Would not, they wouldn't escape another day.
Well, definitely, we're going to get one of them to come here and tell us exactly.
Not one, but
yeah.
the two factions would have to come and banter and tell us
Definitely.
why they're still having